President Biden speaking at the NATO summit here in Washington, ending his remarks by bestowing the Presidential Medal of Freedom on NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg, who he brought up on the stage during his remarks after he said a number of things, including talking about how Ukraine can and will stop Putin, and announcing that the allied nations of NATO will be providing more defense for Ukraine, and also talking about how an overwhelming bipartisan majority of Americans understand that NATO makes us all safer. These were high-profile remarks by the president as questions continue to swirl about his age and acuity. He, of course, during these remarks was reading from a teleprompter. We want to get some quick reaction now here on Bloomberg TV and radio from our political panel assembled here on Balance of Power. Alvin Jordan and Maury Gillespie are still with us. Alvin, first to you is, we were speaking before we went into the president's remarks about these concerns around his health and acuity at 81. Did he do what he needed to do with the speech this evening?
Yeah, I mean, he delivered it without any hiccups, so to speak, and I think that is just, more of what he'll have to do coming up. He has a full slate between now and I think the next week and a half or so. And so he, definitely has to stand and deliver for each of those appearances, whether they be, teleprompter or, kind of amongst the people, if you will. And so I think, any hiccups or speed bumps along the way, kind of put in jeopardy some of this kind of acquiescing we've seen in, from the Democratic Party, so to speak, up to this point. So.
Maura, feel free to weigh in on the performance that we just saw from Joe Biden. A lot of people were watching it specifically to see what his voice would sound like, what his body language would look like, but also the contrast he just drew. Giving that medal to Jens Stoltenberg, the contrast between his approach to NATO and Donald Trump couldn't be more stark.
Absolutely, and I think that was part of the reasoning of making sure this speech was so concisely delivered and strongly delivered, but it was to set apart this contrast of both how Trump views NATO, how Trump and his party and his team view Ukraine and our aid to Ukraine and our position as in the world. I think what I would say here is, yes, he delivered that speech well, and probably as well as he needed to. But again, it was scripted, and it was there for him on the teleprompter, even as he was bestowing the Medal of Freedom to Stoltenberg. So I think what we need to remember here is, both for Trump and for Biden, they cannot be trusted off the cuff. And what does that say moving forward? And we'll need to watch that for both candidates in the months ahead.
Well, and on that point, Alvin, it's worth pointing out, we will be hearing from President Biden at NATO again on Thursday, where he will be delivering a news conference. That's going to be the off-scripted moment. Is that really what counts?
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that, in the sense that I believe coming away from that, a lot of what we've heard over the last couple of days coming from these closed-door meetings on the Hill with Democrats will either be solidified, or, we might see some walking back if he, maybe struggles there. But I would have to think that his team is fully preparing him for that, and I would hope and imagine that that's one that he can, for sure knock out of the park.
Mm-hmm. Is this just a big performance in this case at this NATO summit, Maura? Do deliverables even matter? The president was talking about some important headlines for Ukraine, or are people specifically concerned and looking at the way that he's carrying himself?
The deliverables matter because our role in the world matters, and it's really important that we reaffirm that position. And so whether you are going to vote for Joe Biden or not, he is our president until January of 25. And so we need to encourage him to put the best foot forward he possibly can, because we want to present ourselves in a strong position. The rest of the world is watching what happens here, and they are concerned about what's going to happen come November, just as many of Americans are. And so it's really important that we should all want to our president on the world stage to present his best version, his best self. Nobody wants to see him stumble, I don't think. They shouldn't want to, because he represents us as a nation, and especially in a platform like this where it is with our allies, and the importance of reiterating our commitment to NATO is crucial, especially with what's going on around the world.
Finally, Alvin, in our final moment, knowing that many Democrats talked up this week as kind of a make-or-break moment for Joe Biden, how long does he really have to plead his case as to why he should be the Democratic nominee?
Oh, I think he still has plenty of time. I mean, much was made of the debate kind of being the earliest in recent memory. And so I think with that, he'll have plenty of opportunity. But what you don't want are more moments to kind of make a trend out of what, his team now is saying was just a one night in Atlanta.
Sounds like he has until Chicago.
I mean, you know, that's the next checkpoint for sure.
He's got a month then, Kayleigh.
Yeah, the clock is certainly ticking. Alvin Jordan and Maura Gillespie, our political panel this evening here on Balance of Power. Thank you